Welcome back to the Skits and Giggles podcast. I am Pascal, chief instigator of this show and your host. I'm joined by my co-host and resident engineer, the yin to my yang, the Mario to my Luigi, Bryson. Bryson, how's it going today?
Super. How are you?
I'm good, man. Today we are joined by our good buddy, Robin Schaub. Robin, how's it going today?
Good. Thanks a lot, Pascal. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, you're very, very welcome. Seeing that we are recording this episode on a Friday night, I think a valid question to start with is to check in on what everybody is drinking right now. Robin, what do you got?
I went for a lovely Birra Moretti from Italia. Really reminds me of my riding in Finale Ligure.
Very nice. Bryson, you?
I'm representing my better half. She's from Salzburg, so it's a Stiegelbeer, Sportweiß, alcoholfrei.
Fun-free. Well, I'm keeping it hipster today with the Amundsen New England IPA. Well, Robin, we also have to thank you for doing this podcast in English. It really means a lot to both of us to be able to do this, and we hope your adult beverage is providing you with the necessary liquid courage. Before we jump into the listener question for today, just briefly want to mention our social and where you guys can find more information about the Skits and Giggles podcast. We are currently most active on our Instagram, where you can slide into our DMs and follow along at Skits and Giggles, and you can find our website with all the relevant links and info under the URL skitsandgiggles.com. Also, at this point, I want to do a shout out for my buddy Magnus, who for his generous sticker purchase in support of our Stutz and Giggles campaign. If you want to join in on the sticker game, then just head over to the website where I just added the new podcast design for our stickers. Right now, so let's jump into the listener question for today, and I think we have a good one for Robin, seeing that he's dealing mostly with tires. Bryson, do you want to take it away?
Thanks, Pascal. So we recently got a message from an avid listener, and he went on a bit of a rant about how he had so much trouble with his wheels, his tires, the combination of the two, and it seems that on his motorcycle, in comparison, he just doesn't have any problems. His tires last 3 years or 3 seasons of use, and when he changes them, they work. And then next 3 years goes on and on. With his mountain bike, he's having constant problems, and he wants to know why tires aren't good yet.
Phew, that's a tough one, Bryson. The answer isn't really easy, and it isn't short either, but there are multiple factors that are playing into that. A big one, of course, is customer acceptance, then also OEM specs, so the parts that you originally find on a bike that you buy in a store, price, and also ride quality. So let's start with customer acceptance. Most riders out there still want light tires, still want to have light tires on the rides. So let's say 900 grams per tire for 29er, which is really light, but with a light tire also comes a light casing, and the light casing obviously isn't really strong and doesn't offer a lot of protection and support in corners. So I think there has we need a lot of change in the mindset of riders out there. There has already been some change coming from the EWS side, with many riders switching to heavier casings, like downhill or gravity focused casing, and they really help a lot in protection and not getting flats. But they're also really heavy. So let's say 300 to 400 grams heavier than a standard casing. And that's a lot of weight, which most people don't really want to have on their bike. And if we can change that, I don't think the tires would be that bad. People just have to be honest to themselves and think about what terrain and riding style they have, and then they will choose the right tire and they'll be happy about it. Of course, we aren't already on the end of developing other tires, but stay tuned.
Well, it's a good start for the answer.
Bryson, I see you. You're itching. You wanna get into this. What do you got on this?
Yeah, you have some questions. Come on.
Oh, you mentioned 3 things. Why? And you went into the first.
Yeah, customer acceptance, OEM spec, and also price. But if you buy a bike, they're always spec'd with really light tires. So the reason for that is for OEMs or bike brands to offer light bikes because, as I said, people want their bike to be as light as possible. And of course, light tires help with that as well. So lots of brands put light tires on their enduro bikes, also freeride bikes. And to be honest, it's not always the best idea to do so.
Exactly. I was about to say. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, OEM are trying to hit certain weight targets, and if you're already pushing like 15 kilos and above, then adding downhill casing tires is not exactly helping. But the flip side to that, of course, is that you take your new bike with OEM spec tires that are some relatively thin and lightweight casing. You take them to the mountains for the first time, and you'll spend most of the weekend fixing flats and putting in tubes and having a huge mess with your tubeless sealant.
Yeah, and
so
that's also where the third point comes to play: the price. So OEMs obviously want their bikes to be as cheap as possible, or for them to get the parts as cheap as possible, and adding layers or inserts to a tire adds cost. And that's where also some of these lighter tires come from. And also when you go to a store, you don't really want to spend 100 francs on a new tire. You go for a cheap one. Or some.
Well, it depends, right? I mean, there's obviously ways to find tires in cheaper channels than going to the shop. I think tires, especially if you know your way around tire levers and a bit of tubeless sealant, there's ways to find even high quality tires at a relatively steep discount to what you pay in the shop. I mean, it's obviously me saying that as someone that can do it himself. Yeah. But an interesting point you make is. And I'm curious to hear your stance on it. Is you mentioned inserts, and it's obviously something we've been seeing over the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, obviously, Cushcore is like one of the main brands that's operating in that space, and then obviously you have the different systems that are more, let's say, towards protecting the rim and flat protection. What's your personal take on that?
So I was actually. I was actually talking about inserts used on our casings. So these are small rubber flaps that go inside the casing to protect your sidewall. But there are also tire inserts that you retrofit to your tires, as Huck Norris, Cushcore, and so on. I have tried these in the past, but I always went back to just heavier tires. I mean, they really add some protection to the rim and also to the tire, but I didn't really like the ride feeling because it was super stiff, and combined with a heavy tire, it was a way too stiff in my opinion. And then also, they come with a weight penalty, so they weigh in around 250 grams per insert, I guess. And why don't just add that weight to the tire? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm also in that in that camp now. So I mean, I've been experimenting with Cushcores, and obviously the idea is with Cushcore that you can use the insert with a lighter weight tire, and then hopefully, in combination, yes, it's roughly the same as, let's say, a downhill casing tire. But the problem is, and that is just my personal experience. I'm not saying that's that holds true for everyone, but for me it was if you're in the mountains where sharp rocks are an issue, then sidewall tears and cuts to the tire are just unavoidable, and then you just spend like, I don't know, a relatively long amount of time to fix a flat. So you have to open up the tire, take the cush core out, put the tube in, put the tire back on. So it is so I went back after doing 2 or 3 of those. I went back to just heavier casing tires, as you say. Just for the summer season, I usually run let's say a gravity based, or if you name a brand, like say double down or downhill casing. For racing, certainly downhill casing, especially if it's in the Alpine. And here at home, I just run relatively lightweight casing tires, actually, because we don't have much rock here. We just have plenty of mud. I know Bryson here is a keen connoisseur of the old cush core. What is your take on that?
Yeah, well, I believe the tire makes the most meaningful change on your bike, and so I want to optimize or maximize the way that I can utilize the tire to help me maneuver the bike. Anyways, so I'm a big fan of cush core. Actually, I have 3 sets, and I have more than 3 bikes. But on all my mountain bikes, which I ride aggressively, they have cush core. I have a variety of wheel sizes and sets as well. So, for example, on a more cross-country oriented hardtail, which I'm just doing like lunch laps on, then I have a really flyweight casing tire on it. I think the tire came in at 600 grams, and then I have a XC cush core inside, and it actually has great support, and the weight is almost not noticeable. But then all the way up to I have a free ride downhill bike that has the Pro cush core, which is, like you said, 250, and it's heavy. And they also have double down tires, so it's now I have like cinder block wheels. However, the bike tracks through everything, and I just have to hold on basically sometimes.
Massimo trazione.
And to summarize my point, like you said, it's all a use case. So if I'm up in the Alpine or doing really gravity based riding, and I have a really heavy tire, it's going to last me through the season and through all the cuts and scrapes and rough terrain, then I'm all the better for it, and I can ride harder and faster. With the cush core installed, it gives me a little bit more security. And then all the way back to this cross-country loop, short loop-oriented riding where I'm not so aggressive, but I need this easy pedalability, and just gives you that extra, I don't know, security as well. So,
fair point. I guess it is also like tires is an endless discussion, and obviously everyone has their preferred combination, and I think that's a topic for another episode entirely. So again, I think we close out the listener question here and move to the main part for today. So maybe Robin, just to start with, how about we talk a little bit about yourself, and maybe can you talk a little bit about how you got into riding mountain bikes?
Yeah, let's do it. So basically, I got into riding bikes when I was 14 years old, which is 11 years ago already. So we watched some mountain biking videos on YouTube in the summer holidays, and yeah, we got hooked. I took out my grandfather's KTM bike at that time, which is like a hardware store bike these days. So really bad with rim brakes and non-functional suspension. It was super bad also at this time. But we had tons of fun building bad jumps, spending days in the forest, and yeah, it was just the best time. And then I bought my first Kona Stinky. My brother also, and my friends.
It seems to be a theme. The Stinky seems to be a theme.
Hey, my brother actually bought his first bike from James.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but
shout out to James.
The love started and never ended. And here I am, working with bikes every day.
Okay, but I mean, yeah, you talked about jumps, and then obviously the stinky, and but what kept you going? I mean, obviously there's been some time since you started, and I'm sure there's been some heartbreak and some gnarly crashes. So, what kept you excited and kept you going?
Basically, that what brought me to the sport, just spending time out in the forest with my friends, later also traveling with them. Yeah, and all the different aspects of mountain biking that this sport comes with. It's not just biking, it's also wrenching, it's trail building, it's nerding out on parts, it's everything. So it's not just riding, there's so much behind it, and that's what's keeping me with mountain biking. So I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, cool. I mean, you make two very interesting remarks, which I want to dig a little bit deeper. And I mean, obviously, the first one is you mentioned trail building. Are you involved at all in the local community, or how's that work?
Yeah, so we started building our first legal trail out on Gempen Mountain, our local mountain.
Mount Gemprest.
Famous Mount Gemprest. It's epic. We built that in 2012, and it was a lot of fun building it. And then I was part of the trail crew, and we spent many weekends out there improving the trail and building. And some years later we were able to build a second trail on Mount Gemprest called Bike Trail Arlesheim in Arlesheim, obviously with more jumps and big berms, which was a lot better suited to my riding and also the riding of my friends. So I took over the role as a trail manager on that trail, and since then I'm responsible for everything regarding this trail.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I think you posted an interesting chart on your socials the other day. I think it was on the Trailnet social about and obviously something that we already picked on this podcast. This amazing growth in the sport, especially during the spring of 2020, and it was just insane to see the amount of people that are out on bikes, out on the trail. And I mean, I've ridden the trail in Arlesheim, and it's a good time. It's I think it's a good balance between challenging, but it has a little bit for everyone. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the experience from last year and how this growth has affected the trail building in the region?
Mm-hmm. So last year was great for the sport. We had so many new riders out on the trail, which was awesome. But then also we had a great spring last year with a lot of dry weather and sunny days, which caused a lot of traffic on the trail. So in March and April, we already had the amount of rides on the trail as we had last year in August, I think. And the weather was even drier than in August. So more rides on the trail, drier weather equals worse trail conditions and a lot of loose rocks. Yeah,
exactly. Much more erosion.
Yeah, exactly. So that caused a lot of problems for us, and there was no rainfall. But without rain, there's no way to do anything on the trail. So it wasn't great for us. But once there was some rain, we were able to reshape the trail, and everything was fine again. But
okay. I mean, what I thought was most interesting that, obviously this is Switzerland, and then people need to, measure stuff and have a clear view and need data and stuff like that. So I was most surprised to find out that you actually have a traffic measurement system on an official mountain bike trail. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a really important thing for us, actually, because as you may know, building trails in Switzerland isn't legal, but we already have 3 trails now in Canton Basel-Land. that are legal, all under the TrailNet flag, and there are a lot of restrictions and discussions going on with the local community and the cities around here, and also there's a budget for these trails, and we have to back up that budget with numbers. So if nobody wants to ride a trail, why should we build more? Or why should we get more money to do maintenance on it? So having these measurements is really important for us to be able to get more funds and also to realize more projects in the future as well.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, evidence is always the best argument. I mean, that's as unbiased as it can be.
Yeah.
Bryson, do you have anything on this, or?
What did it take you to get this measurement system set up? Is it just like an Arduino in a weatherproof box, or you have to buy something standalone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but it is a box that you put into the soil, and it counts the amount of rides. Only on a bicycle, actually, it doesn't count walkers and hikers as well. And you can just order it online. So if you want that for your local trail, just order it, and you can see the results in real time on your desktop.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I mean, again, I think as I said, right, data and evidence is always the best argument to have an educated discussion about something, especially when it involves money. What I also picked up on about what you said earlier about what excites you to be into sport or mountain biking in general is, of course, like to tinker around with equipment. You're an engineer by trade. Obviously work for Onza. So, I remember Onza from way back when I was kind of a teenager into sport, and at the time Onza made sweet, very sweet bar ends. I haven't heard from Onza in a while, and then now you're coming back and saying you're making tires. So what's up with that?
Yeah, that's true. It's really interesting that you know the old Onza, but it's a whole different company today. So
I'm just dating myself.
You are. So the old Onza was based in the US and was responsible for all these old school tires like the retro white porcupine, then these bar ends you talked about, and grips and so on. But they actually went into bankruptcy at one point. And my boss, Michel, later bought the rights for the brand and started producing tires with Swiss and performance and quality in mind. And that's actually where the story began. At this time, he was also one of the co-founders of TST Trading. They distributed Maxxis tires in Switzerland and also helped with development. And therefore, he already had a lot of know-how in the business.
Okay. So, if I want to get, and I guess, that's getting into the first, real question for today is like, if I wanted to get some of these sweet new porcupine RCs that you've been peddling on your socials, when can I get some?
Good question. Actually, you can get them right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're still available, but the question is when
is the next batch coming?
Exactly. That's the tricky question.
Okay, so maybe you can, of course, the big question here is, the supply chains. We've talked on this about this on episode 1 with James, and it's obviously one of the big challenges in the market today. And I think Robin here is very well positioned to talk a little bit about the perspective of a brand that actually produces in Far East, and as much as he can. So it would be good to get your perspective on what are the real challenges, and how is Onza dealing with these challenges?
So, as I already mentioned, we had a lot of new riders out on the trail, but they also had to get their bikes from somewhere. So, all bike shops I know sold out on bikes last year, and they had a really hard time getting new bikes. And this affected the supply chain in Asia really hard. And of course, also bicycle manufacturers, and we had to bump up capacities to meet demand. And yeah, more production also meant more resources or more material. And this came with some shortages of rubber and also cardboard, if you want. Also different materials, and this caused a lot of delays in the industry. So we're trying our best to get tires to Europe and the rest of the world, but it's not easy at the moment.
But so what have been like the real challenges? Has it been the issue that you don't get the production capacity, or is it that you don't have the raw materials, or what are the real bottlenecks?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate to get capacities in the factories, but since all these shortages of supply with raw material, in this case rubber, they also have delays with last year's production, so they're still producing some tires of last part of 2020. So all our schedules are delayed as well and have to be reworked. And yeah, lucky enough, we're still getting tires, but not as many as we expected to. So that's really hard for us, and also leads to a completely new situation for us, where we have to remember Corona, where there was only limited amount of toilet papers in the store for all people. So basically that's the same we have to do with our customers, which isn't great for us, isn't great for them, but in the end that's just trying to be fair to everyone.
Yeah. And of course, you're talking from the perspective of a brand that is kind of, in terms of size, is kind of in the middle of things. So right, so you're not like one of the very, very big brands that owns their own production facilities in Far East. You're kind of, in air quotes, renting capacity at the bigger factories, right? So you're always second or third in line versus one of the big producers. How's that changed the dynamic?
So it's true that we don't have our own factory, but we are not second in line officially. Let's say we're not second in line officially, but the factory is not the same company as their own brand. So they have their own brand, but their brand is also a customer of theirs. So if we get capacities, we get them most of the time. We are not in the middle of size, so they're a really small company. Maybe it doesn't look like that from the outside, but they're tiny compared to the big ones.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially Max is. If you only have the sport of mountain biking in mind and see what Maxis does in terms of, let's say market presence, OEM presence, etc., then you think like, oh wow, that must be a really big brand. But in the reality is that even Maxis is part of a conglomerate, right? So it's kind of that produces a number of different brands. And so even they are not necessarily always first in line. Of course, they probably own some of their own production facilities, but yeah. So it's so of course pretty general. So again, coming back to my new porcupines. So can I get so my second pair, because obviously without a doubt I'm going to destroy my first set that I now can get, but we've discussed in the the opening of the show about how we're still getting flats. So when I'll be able to get my second pair?
Why should you need a second pair? They're only coming in gravity casing, my dude. And they sit between the DD casing at DH casing you were talking about. So perfect sweet spot.
Just throw some CRISPR inside. I think you'll be all right.
Exactly. Or maybe I just should stop writing like an idiot. That's probably the better solution. No, yeah, no, it's just how I express myself. No, what I was getting at is more the question of what do you think will be the impacts? I mean, certainly for this year. I mean, we're already seeing what the impacts are for this year. Certainly towards the summer, and then of course as we get towards the fall of 21. And then into actually already 22 season. So what is your perspective on that?
That's a tough one, but if you can still get tires, that's no doubt about that. But if you're really picky about a certain model, better get spares, because availability will be limited of all brands, not just us. And if you're really picky about rubber compound, casing, or tread as well, yeah, you're best if you just get a replacement beforehand.
Buy everything.
buy in bulk. Get a 10-pack.
Exactly. It's much cheaper anyway. But yeah, I mean that's that's some interesting insight. Also. You guys obviously, that's in the public domain. You reacted to the problems in Far East. You started producing here in Europe again. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that experience? So maybe outline for the listener kind of what you started doing.
So in September last year, we launched our new Made in Europe tubes, which is a lineup of rubber tubes. Maybe you remember them, really old school rubber tubes.
Yeah, what is that? I mean, it's about the same time as the Onza Barents, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was a long time ago that people wrote them, but yeah. Again, still many people ride with tubes, and we, of course, wanted to address that and brought back production of tubes to Europe. And now we produce our small lineup of tubes in Czech Republic. It took us a while to set that up, and the product's great. They work, quality is equal to the rest you can get. We made some small tweaks with our approach to detail, but yeah, it wasn't easy, and still not everything is like we want it to be.
Okay, well, I mean, the end product, I guess, is working out reasonably well. But can you maybe explain, like, obviously the production in Far East has its benefits and it has its drawbacks, and I'm sure that the production in Europe has its benefits and its drawbacks. So can you maybe contrast the two a little bit? So what is maybe easier and what is maybe a bit more difficult?
Yeah. So let's get to the positive things first. So communication is quite easy. They are in the same time zone as we are. They are more familiar with English most of the time than people in China, Thailand, or Taiwan. So the language barrier isn't there really. Also, mentality-wise, they are they have a lot more common with us than Asian factories or Asian workers do. So that's a positive thing. Then also logistics are a lot easier to move product from Czech Republic to our warehouse in Germany or to customers in Europe. And also it's a lot more eco-friendly. You have to imagine transporting all these goods from Asia to Europe versus from Czech Republic to Germany. It's a lot faster, and a lot more eco-friendly, let's say.
Okay. Well, I guess this makes on the one hand obviously makes sense, and on the other, plays on a theme that we've discussed already on the podcast quite a bit, and I think is also something we want to get back to later on. But maybe on this nearshoring topic, maybe what if you can shed some light on, what was the consumer reception or some kind of feedback on the product? I mean, assume you still get flats.
Yeah, it depends. So we have rubber tubes with 0.9 millimeters of thickness, which adds some puncture protection, but of course they aren't as reliable as a tubeless setup. I won't deny that, but customer feedback has been great. Also, it opens up new possibilities for us. More and more customers are looking for locally made product that are not coming from Far East. Also because of, let's say, safety laws and so on. So yeah, that's a big point for us. But as we wanted to discuss earlier, that also came with some downsides to it. It's cool to have manufacturing just 1.5 hours per flight away from Switzerland, but of course, controlling that process wasn't easy at all last year with all these travel restrictions. So that advantage wasn't an advantage last year. And then also companies in Asia really have that business style. So if you want something from them, they really know what to ask and what they need to deliver you the product you want. And if you deliver specs to them, or let's say that's my experience. I don't know how that works out for other brands, but if we approach a company in Asia with our specs and our drawings, they can manufacture them exactly to spec. And if they have questions, they ask and they don't just do something. So that's really professional and they really know what they're doing. Whereas in Europe, if they don't know a code for the packaging or if they have questions, they just do something. So maybe communication is a lot easier here, but a lot more of it is needed.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I guess that's the always the component that gets forgotten, right? So it's like, of course, the further away you are, the clearer your communication needs to be, and the more exact the instructions, etc. Whereas, when you're literally sitting next to each other, there's so much that's kind of, it goes without saying, and then maybe there is some confusion. You read it this way, and the other person read it the other way, and then of course that leads to some frustration on both sides.
Yeah.
But the maybe as a follow-on question, I think on the whole, if I understand it correctly, the experience with nearshore production has been pretty good. Are there any other plans to do something different? I mean, obviously, as much as you can tell.
Yeah, so far experience has been, let's say, okay, but the products are great and it's really the way forward for us. We have already made some merchandise in the UK now with 100% with mud guards made out of 100% recycled plastic. So that's already a big step because many brands are doing them in Asia as well to save cost. We are taking the green route there, also trying to improve these even more in the future. And also, of course, we have other projects in line which I can't tell you about, but there will be new stuff coming.
Okay.
Maybe not what you're used to, but let's see.
Oh, I'm excited. Again, we talk about nearshore, and that obviously still involves quite some distance. Is local even on the agenda, or is that obviously this is Switzerland, so in some respects it's always known as this reassuringly expensive high price island. But is there anything in the pipeline that you're trying to do local now that you're like a Swiss company?
Yeah, so we are trying to do everything locally, what we can. So all these newest projects also involve local companies. And with me and also my boss Michel having a background in manufacturing, it really is a big goal for us to have manufacturing locally, maybe not of tires but of other products, and to regularly get the look behind the scenes, control the process, and be able to also improve it whenever needed, and not having to have all these big time steps between improvements.
Yeah, maybe that's actually an interesting point, and something probably most people don't think about. Can you, if you can share, of course, what are the typical, let's say, product cycles if you do something in Far East? So let's say you have a new tire design that you want to produce. You've decided this is what we want to do. And then you have your piece of paper with the exact specification of what it needs to look like, which rubber compound, which casing, et cetera, et cetera. So what is the timeline between you sign off on your spec and you holding your first set of tires in your hand for Far East production, for example?
Let's say 1 year if everything works out. So if we are working with a rubber compound and also casing, so technology that already exists, that we already used in the past, then already having the 3D drawings done, then around 1 year if everything works out. But then the first step is to get the tire mold ready, manufactured in Thailand. And once that's done, we are going into prototype stage. And yeah, if that's working as planned, sometimes we only need one prototype run. But if it doesn't, and maybe there are air bubbles in the rubber compound, or we need to change the tread or whatever, then it can take a lot longer, up to 2 years maybe, as we are experiencing at the moment. But this tire is finally in production and launching this spring.
Ah, okay. So there's something new coming in the tire department, so to speak.
That's true.
Okay, interesting. And then if you, so obviously that's for Far East production. And then now if you compare that to your experience in the Czech Republic, so how far was that from, let's say first ideas to, again, holding the tube in hand, so to speak?
That was pretty quick, but I wasn't really involved with that topic from the beginning, so I can't really give you information about that. But it was a lot quicker, but lead times at the moment exploded, so it's cool to get samples quickly. But then again, if you can't get the finished product in time or even in a year, then fast prototyping doesn't make sense at all. It's cool to have, but there's no reason to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, of course, you can't really compare producing a new tire from scratch with all the different components of a tire versus a tube. But it's just I'm curious to see how what are the, because of course everything is kind of a trade-off, right? So between something is closer, you have direct or more direct communication because you're only a time zone or maybe 2 time zones away, versus you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of production capacity in the Far East, which is obviously between, let's say, 7 to 9 time zones away. Completely different working style, completely different work environment, completely different, let's say, innovation environment. And so of course, somewhere between those 2 extremes, there is a sweet spot, and where that's obviously where the opportunities are at the minute, between just waiting for, as you say, years to actually have new product in hand, versus making a few compromises and then hopefully have something in hand relatively quickly. Bryson, I see you're roaring to go. Do you have anything on this?
Yeah, I think it's a great direction Ansa's going with the onshoring, nearshoring, and within Europe manufacturing. Question comes to mind is, did Ansa have any part in creating like a rubber plantation in Czech Republic, or is it more of they found a manufacturer who was capable of doing this and decided to move that route?
It was definitely the second one. As I already mentioned, we're a really small company, especially compared to the other ones. And there are some companies in Czech Republic producing tractor tires, so really big ones, and also truck tires and so on.
Real downhill casing.
Real downhill casing, exactly. But it comes with some weight as well. So yeah, they were able to produce them for us, and that's why we went with them. If we had to set up a completely new facility to produce tires or rubber, then we would of course try to do that at home in Switzerland.
But the for the production in the Czech Republic, the rubber is still coming from elsewhere, I assume.
Yeah, that's true.
But that would be actually just, you brought up a really small, neat point there. Imagine we did it in Switzerland. Imagine we were able to create tires. It would be great to create everything, in your own home, in your own basement, of course. But what do you think, if we could just kind of like start to imagine right now, what would it take to start creating our own tires in Switzerland? Or for Ansa to do it, maybe?
Yeah, first of all, a lot of money, of course. And then we had to get some additional know-how on board on how to get that all ready. And it's not just having the factory. You would also need a factory or machines to produce the molds, It's cool if you can work with rubber here, but then again, you can't really produce any tires without the mold. And mold cost in Switzerland would be really high if you would get a company to do that.
Yeah, that's obviously the traditional view of Switzerland, right? That everything is expensive and, it's nothing, it hasn't been done here before, right? But at the end of the day, it's, if Switzerland is known for anything, then it's for innovation and figuring stuff out, how you can make it, if not better, then at least more efficient. And I'm not saying you should start putting your money down tomorrow to start producing tires here in Switzerland. But I think certainly a lot of these production cycles that we have in the market today. You can definitely rethink those. And of course, people think with their cycling industry hat on most of the time, but if you start taking your cycling industry hat off for a second, then all of a sudden, and open your mind a little bit, all of a sudden you start seeing it's like, oh, hang on, actually, this other industry that we have over here, they are doing something pretty similar than we do. And oh, hang on, that industry over there, that actually also does something pretty interesting, and that's actually almost the same as we do. So I think, at the end of the day, there's always scope for people to work together and figure stuff out and try to bring the best skills and ideas together to at least try something new. And worst case, it doesn't work out. If for example, right, a good example. Yes, I know it's not tires and it's not bikes or whatever, but if you think about cycling clothing manufacturing, right? If ASOS, I believe they're still producing in Switzerland, right? So, and of course, yes, they're competing at the very, very, very high end of the spectrum. But at the end of the day, they manage to compete with brands that are producing in the Far East, that are producing in let's say in the east of Europe, Turkey, etc. So. Somehow they can compete, right? So with different ideas and different production techniques.
Yeah, Yeah, you can say that, but I wouldn't really say that they're competitive with brands that produce in Asia. Because yeah, maybe with some of them, but ASOS also has a really special target group, and they don't do cheap products at all. So
Or then maybe you just make an expensive tire, man.
yeah,
Hello.
yeah.
300 francs a pop. Hello.
No flats.
It's a no-brainer. No flat tires with a Swiss flag on the side. This is a new business. There you go.
There would definitely be some clients for that, but it wouldn't be easy at all. And also tires, you have to get volumes with tires. You can't just do 10, let's say in blue. You need to buy thousands of them. So yeah, it's a volume game. So that's also why the price point is it's an important thing.
Isn't it true that the volume game is only because of the manufacturing in the East? If I were to set up shop here, I could do one a day and be happy with myself.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, of course, you could set up a shop here and then just produce more expensive tires. Yeah, of course.
There's Dugas Tires, and he's where, in Belgium or France? I can't remember. I mean, the guy that basically makes all of the top name cross racers tires, right? Those are all handmade tires, and somehow he makes a living. So I think maybe also, I mean, obviously that's a challenge from someone that's not in the industry. So it's, you maybe also need to rethink, or we can rethink some of those ideas or notions that we have in the industry right now.
I think it could also be argued that a tire made in Switzerland by Swiss people would actually sell quite well, just from a patriotic standpoint. We're making it close to home. It's made by us and for us, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would love that as well. But then again, would you buy a tire for, let's say, 150 francs? If we could get the price to price point the same as right now, then that would be the ideal world for us. But if we can't do that, then it's really hard to do it, because there's so many tire brands out there doing cheap stuff, or some are also doing great stuff that isn't so cheap, and there's everything out there. So yeah, of course, having a Swiss-made tire would be awesome, but it's not too easy there's no real USP. It's just made in Switzerland, but that's not a USP.
What do you mean? You just put a Swiss cross on it.
Yeah, but that's no USP.
But it's it's safe to say there are some things that are meant to be made in bulk, large numbers, and shipped across, and they are done so for a reason.
And also scaling. I mean, if we had to produce the amount of 2021 in our own factory of 2020, that would be really hard for us, because we really pumped up our forecast for this year. And if you have to improve capacities in your own factory, that would cost a lot of money, which you have to commit to for the next 10 years, let's say.
It's a good point. But I guess I think one of the other interesting conversations we had on the podcast with James was this notion of the green credentials, and that's obviously been coming back quite a few times now. So I just wanted to maybe get your perspective on what it takes to be green in the industry, especially if you're producing not in your own factory and you're producing overseas, and what does it actually take to, if you say, well, let's only have cardboard packaging and we don't want to use any plastic, etc. So what is your take on that?
To be green, it takes a lot. Let's take Patagonia and Vaude, Endura also, or Pembry, which you talked about with James as an example. They are green, and they have proof for that. They don't just use reusable bottles or what else. They really do something for the environment and packaging, recycling, and so on. So yeah, it's not only about greenwashing; it's about actually doing something. And that's also why it's so hard for us to really make a point in that business, because we don't want to use cardboard packaging but then have metal rivets in them, because then it would be a step in the right direction, but it wouldn't be done 100% right. So, and also if you want to do something in Asia like that, it's not really easy. You have to come up with a plan, a 100% plan, and even then, if the factory doesn't want to handle it, then they just leave you alone and say, you take what we have, and otherwise go away.
Oh wow! I mean, I wasn't quite aware that this is such. There's still such a pushback in the industry, but can you maybe share what you guys are trying to do to be a bit more green, especially now with the nearshore production in the Czech Republic? Is there maybe some new ways that you can do stuff, or is it basically same old?
And maybe the impact isn't as bad as you may think now, but it's not that easy. But we're always looking for new ideas how to improve our sustainability. And let's be honest, rubber production is not the most sustainable business, as there aren't really good ways to recycle or reuse tires at the moment. Of course, there are some companies making wallets, but it's really a small part of all the waste. But we are trying to not have packaging at all. But that's not as easy as we thought in the beginning. But because shops actually need the packaging to put all their stickers on, to have information, and it's also needed for warehousing. So, cool idea in the beginning, but not so easy to deal with all customers around the world. But we are still trying to reduce the plastic packaging. So there's a plastic blister that's wrapped around the tire with all the information on it. The next step, of course, would be to not get rid of that, but make it smaller and, if possible, out of cardboard, without a zip tie and without rivets, just plain cardboard. That's something we are working right now. Then some customers of us are really interested about the carbon footprint of the logistics. So that's a really important thing for us actually at the moment, because a really big Swiss bike shop pays a lot of attention to sustainability, and for them having to have tubes made in Europe and also shipped from Europe and not from Asia is really important to them, to also reduce carbon emissions. So for us, that's a great point, and we are trying to find more solutions to get greener, and also we are using carbon-free or climate-neutral shipping options for all orders.
Okay. Have you? I mean, it's just an idea off the top of my mind now that I'm listening to you. Have you thought about splitting the packaging from the actual production, let's say, of the tires? Because of yes, on the one hand, you need to take the item apart and have two separate working steps. But on the other hand, if that's true, that this big bike shop client of yours is willing to pay a premium, then I'm sure there's others that are willing to pay a premium. And that obviously opens the question of like, well, if we can say we just have our tires made and not the packaging in Asia, and then ship the tires to, I don't know, Poland or Czech Republic, where we can have more control over the packaging, and then have our logistics center a bit closer, and then ship it from our logistics center that's closer to most distribution centers. Is that something that you've thought about, or is that I'm just talking out of my backside?
It's a really important point you're talking about, but we have thought about that. But something like that would be, you would have more shipping. More shipping would be involved in a solution like that. So shipping the tires from Asia to Eastern Europe and then to the warehouse or to the customers. So there's an additional step in there that also may come with duties. It adds cost because you have to take all tires out of a box, then package them, put them back into a box, and ship them out again. So a lot more work is involved, and in the end, that's cost that we have to take or forward to our customer, and in the end, tires just get more expensive, and that's the real problem we had with sustainable packaging, because there are a lot of options out there, but they are just expensive. Yeah. And I think being green is awesome and everything's great, but in the end, the options we have at the moment just add to the price. And most of our customers are just not willing to pay an extra cost just to have green packaging that they are throwing away anyways.
Yeah, again, obviously that's a notion that is pretty common in this whole green discussion, right? So it's like everyone wants to be green as long as they don't have to pull their wallet out of the pocket, or pay more for the same product, which I personally think there is scope to do that, right? So personally, we're fortunate enough that we can make these decisions, but if we have the choice of using something that is a bit more sensible in the grand scheme of things, and even if the price is a bit higher, then we generally go for the more sensible option. But not everyone wants to do that, or not everyone can do that. So, but as long as we haven't tackled that challenge or that consumer mindset, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to actually change some industry behaviors. Unless, of course, as you say, they come for free, or they're actually cheaper to do than whatever is being done right now.
Of course, if they are just a little bit more expensive, then that's totally fine. We would be happy to take that cost, but it's like maybe half the price more, then that's just not feasible for us.
Yeah, I can see it's a double-edged sword, because you want to make sure you get product into people's hands. However, if it's going to cost an exorbitant amount, it's not going to be worth it to them to receive these products, and then therefore your brand doesn't flourish, and we don't have any more white porcupines or hopefully bar ends. Yeah, and I see how it's a consumer decision. For example, there's a lot of people who decided to stop eating certain products because of the palm oil. And I agree with it. And then the same with eating beef because of the consumption of water. And I agree with it. I hope to see better packaging on Onza. I look forward to see what you guys can do.
There will definitely be an option, but not yet, since we haven't found a good one. But we are really trying hard to get the best solution for everyone, and not making tires more expensive for our customers, not for us.
On that positive note, I think it's time to close out the show. And we, as you may know or may not know yet, we have 3 fantastic questions that we ask all of our guests on this podcast. And I think we would just start with those if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, our question number one. I mean, of course, we've talked about you're getting into bikes and that not so great hack that you were riding at the beginning. But maybe can you tell us a little bit about the first bike that got you really stoked on riding?
The Stinky, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean the very first one was that KTM I talked about, but it's it made me stoked about riding, but the bike was super bad. The rims always had dents in it and didn't work with the rim brakes then, so it wasn't fun.
But fast.
From this perspective, but then the Stinky, it changed my life.
Which one did you have? The red one with the chrome?
The 2008 one, white and green.
Oh.
Ooh, Marzocchi bomber, front and rear. Hey, awesome bike.
Sweet ride.
And then, it changed the world for me. I was able to jump bigger jumps, ride faster than ever, take it to the Alps, and that was the best time. Until I broke it. But then again, James was working for Kona and he made it possible to get a replacement for me. And
there you go. And you were friends ever since.
Yeah. Best buddies.
All right. Cool.
So that was my first real bike love, let's say.
Okay. Well, again, it is a classic. It is a classic, and it's now that we have done a few of those podcasts, we have to say it's a common one actually. But there's a common theme, the Stinky.
So James helped you out with the frame, but did he infect you with his upgradeism? Did he show you a little bit of bling and get you hooked on wanting to upgrade the jack shit pedals or your out of bounds riser bar? Where did you go from there?
He didn't do Bike the World at that time, and actually I didn't know him either. I found out about that like 8 years later, but it was him that's done it, and he was able to organize me a Stinky Deluxe Stinky Supreme frame, I think it was, and it was only available as a frame set. So there were only like 10 of them in Europe, and I was one of them, so I was super stoked in it.
Definite
upgrade. And many riders were after me as well.
Oh, for sure.
So.
Okay, good. All right. Well, then our second one is it's a special one. Imagine you're Harry Skidini and you're a bike magician extraordinaire. You can make riding a bike more awesome for anyone by the stroke of your magic dropper post. What would you do?
So, I wouldn't change anything on bikes because, as I said, we also had a lot of fun on bikes with the
26
worst
inch
bikes out there. So I wouldn't change that. Of course, I'm a tech nerd, but that wouldn't be the issue in the end. But seeing so many riders out on the trail, that most of them are average Joes or even beginners, and I would really like to improve safety and fun for them by making them able to jump properly, because so many of them have a really bad way to jump.
All right, well, as Pascal mentioned, we have 3. And aside from the magnificent porcupines, I want you to tell us how to make a great skid.
So, as you may know, I'm working for a tire company, so skids are really good for our business, and I'm really supporting everyone doing skids, but personally, I'm not really a fan of skids. And think skidding is mostly like a posing move of beginners or a bad braking habit, Pascal.
Controversial.
Controversial. Controversial.
no shots fired here. Yeah, but I would say a really nice slide into a corner where you ride fast into your corner, and there's that sweet spray of roost, but without insiding or cutting, no brakes and no low pressure. That's like art.
Well, Robin, we are at the end of our time. This was amazing. Thank you very much for doing this. If the listeners want to reach out to you and complain about the Onza tires, where can they do so?
So if they have any questions or if they have some complaints, they are free to contact us via contact@onza/tires.com or also via our socials or our website, and we will be really happy to get back to you and answer all your questions.
Thanks again for doing this. This is pretty cool. A very good alternative perspective on the bike industry in 2021. And with that, I would say, see you soon.
Adios.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye guys.